This is Maryland wide receiver Tai Felton.
He only has 2 years of starting experience, but in that last year, 94 yards per game, 81st percentile in fantasy points per game. It actually came against some pretty tough competition over there in the Big Ten. He did it in a weird way where his yards per reception was low, but then at the combine, he's a ludicrous athlete, 87th percentile in the jumps, 85th percentile on the speed. This tape was like very, very hit and miss, but I would say he does have my attention.
This is an interesting profile we're about to talk about because he has an interesting frame. Like you said, 6'1", 183 pounds. That is 12th percentile weight, 14th percentile arm length, 8th percentile wingspan, 16th percentile hand size. But then you look at the rest of the mock draftable chart, and it's all big positives with that 4.37 40 and a 1.51 10-yard split and the awesome jumps, as you already talked about. I mean, he is so tall and so fast, and he's so explosive when it comes to his jumps, but then his arms are super short. And I think it makes for kind of an awkward wide receiver when you're watching him. Like, to me, he was at his best versus zone and off coverage. Like, he found space, he turned up field, he had defenders bounce off of him. And definitely you saw defenders bounce off of him on the screens. He forced 26 missed tackles this year, the fifth most of any wide receiver on receptions, I should say. But then there are certainly some other negative underlying metrics that we'll get to here in the future.
Yeah, the screen game usage is a positive, but it's also 33% of his catches, which
Right.
explains a lot of it. And you don't see a bunch of 6'1" guys in the screen department, especially with that like kind of thin frame. But he was very good at it. And I saw the same thing. Off coverage, zone coverage. I just saw somebody that was really tough over the middle. I mean, this guy took some massive shots, and there was a couple instances down, like he throws the ball out to the flats where he catches it, and the first guy just makes a miss, and then he actually really pulls away from guys. And to me, that speed was like very, very real, which was kind of like a weird thing because the A dot was low, the yards per reception is low, but then you turn on the film, you see some of these instances where he is like legitimately running by everybody. So I would like to see him again in a little bit different of a role where like I would like to see a couple more go balls on tape, but this is very much a projection here. And to get to one of the negatives, and it's a massive negative, there's no way around it. His hands are a complete concern. 8 drops, his landing when the ball goes up in the air, you don't know where he's going to come down with. I thought he slowed down at the catch point on sometimes on some of these breaking routes too. So he's somebody that doesn't trust his hands, tiny arms. But when the ball is in his hands, like this dude could really, really go.
Yeah, 39% contested catch rate for his career is just not really going to cut it. Again, it's an awkward frame that we're dealing with here, but he has some obvious areas that he wins. The production last year was really interesting because you look at the first 4 games and he was totally dominant against Connecticut, 178 yards, against Michigan State, 152 yards, Virginia, 117, and then Villanova, 157. And then he didn't touch 100 plus yards except for one game the rest of the season. And in some contests was just like totally phased out with 57 and 27 yards, and you can keep going on from there. Yeah, I mean, some of that might be because they didn't funnel him or manufacture touches for him in some of those contests. Again, the 31 screen targets that you brought up, but as much and how positive he can be with like contact after the catch, I was worried about him winning on contact during his routes. Like, I thought his hips were quite tight. Like, route versus Minnesota showed that too. And then, as you pointed out, the ball tracking with like bucket throws, not always there on top of it. But like, again, if we get him into shallow crosses, like versus Villanova, or like the shuffle fade touchdown that he had against Villanova, those stood out to me as positives for Tai Felton.
Yeah, my end line in my notes here. I think he has day 2 traits with like UDFA hands. So he's a complete boom bust prospect. I think you'll like this comp. And it's a big one here. Christian Watson's explosiveness with Romeo Dobbs' physicality, but Dontavian Wicks' hands. It's every Packers wide receiver, their strengths and their flaws all in one. I put him like right in like near my top 100. I'm still like figuring out the last couple of guys there. He's a complete flyer, but there's at least enough traits where like either in the manufactured touch game or he's actually somebody as a rotational guy you can throw the ball to. He could be a special teams guy, or if you get really lucky, and we didn't see this at Maryland very often, that the downfield ability starts to show up just because he is 6'1", with those explosiveness. But a complete boom bust player at this point.
To me, he's at best a number 3 in the NFL. Actually, his top comparison on mock draftable for his frame and his size and his athletic testing was Jalen Naylor, which I think is pretty apt here. But the one I kept coming back to, because of the big plays and the flash, albeit this guy was much longer, Tyquan Thornton. That's and kind of, again, a very skinny frame on
Mhm.
top of it, but legit speed, legit juice. But at the same time, if there was contact during the route, had really, really difficult time separating against press coverage. Um, but the highlights, the highs, what
Yeah.
you think you can work with were notable there. But I think you like him a bit more than I do.
Yeah, I would just say he was probably more physical than Taekwon Thornton ever was, and you see that going over the middle. He's willing to take a big hit, and I'm not sure if Taekwon Thornton was ever doing that or in the screen game, but yeah, we'll see. Like this guy can be out of the league instantly, or this could be somebody that has a little bit of pop. We'll see. I think he's probably gonna be a fourth round pick.
For everyone out there, Hayden and I are ranking our top 15 wide receivers. In fact, it might already be on the channel. So take a look at that. He is not in my top 15 wide receiver. So I'm excited to have the conversation on that when we get there. And by the way, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button before you leave. Check out another prospect profile, another video, and we'll see you over there.